You're listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. Way powered up, mi gente. What's poppin'? This is your boy Al Mega. Welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders Podcast. And today, everyone buckle up, because today we have a creative powerhouse on the scene. He's an Emmy-winning, Annie-winning, time-traveling, comic book writing, Star Wars expanding, robot chicken madman who's bringing us his next twisted masterpiece called Host Mortem. You also know him from The Flash, W.E.B, Spider-Man, and the legendary Wearing Time's Carmen Sandiego. But today, homie's here to talk horror, humor, and why his new Kickstarter is about to change up the game, baby. Let me introduce the big boss himself, Mr. Kevin.
Woo! Yes, we are in the house.
Yeah, baby. Thank you for hanging out with me today to talk, and our fellow Crusaders talk about this kick-ass Kickstarter, pun intended, that you have going on out there. I mean, the artistry looks fun, and if it's coming from your mind, I know it's going to be insane. All right, so we're going to be digging into all of this, all right? But before we do, we got to know a little bit about the big homie. So Tell me where you were originally from, and the most important question of your life. What was the first thing in overall fandom that you ever fell in love with?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, the answer I know off the top of my head is I'm from Long Island, New York, Merrick.
New York in the house, baby. Yeah,
exactly. Born and raised there. Al, I came out of the womb knowing that I was going to be an entertainer and steeped in, even I at that age, I didn't know what pop culture was, but I knew I wanted to be part of it. And I gotta say, if I have to think back, I mean, obviously I was like 7 or 8 when Star Wars came out, and that was, mind blowing. And that was probably one of the first fandom things that I belonged to. But I gotta say, HR Puffin stuff. Do you remember HR Puffin stuff?
HR Puffin stuff.
You gotta look him up. You love him. It's like Sid and Marty Krofft, that world. I don't know if you know them, but Saturday mornings, people forget. My generation, you had 3 hours of television Saturday from like 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And that was pretty much all your viewing. And in there were the Super Friends, and it was Bigfoot and Wild Boy, and it was HR Puffin stuff, and it was Electra Woman and Dyna Girl. It was these things that were insane. And that was my foray into, I guess, not only pop culture, but superheroes. A little bit older, like around 8 or 9, I really got into Kiss. I loved Kiss because they were like superheroes, as you know. And then it just kept taking off. And then I have to say, I think, I was probably about 11 when I read my first Batman comic. It was a Len Wein, Jim Aparo story called The Untold Legend of Batman. And it was a miniseries. And if you knew nothing about Batman, which I didn't at the time, and you picked up this miniseries, it gave you in-depth knowledge on everyone in Batman's world, wrapped in an incredible mystery. Nice. And so that was my foray into Batman. And from that point on, it was kind of like, what else is there in life? I was like, I'm all about comics and movies and mysteries and cartoons. And, I've just kept following that my whole career. Now, I like to say I turned my midlife crisis into a career by working in Star Wars and Spider-Man and Mad Magazine. But the truth is, those are the things I loved when I was a kid.
So let me ask you, obviously you had a very diverse career thus far: comics, TV, novels, voice work, time traveling detective duties. So when you started out, was this the dream, or did you just keep saying yes to wild opportunities?
What's so funny is the dream expanded. I always knew I wanted to be an actor, and so that was the path for a long time. And I was very fortunate. I went to school for acting. Right out of college, I got a couple of Broadway shows. I did all of that. And then, to be honest, your interests expand, but also sometimes the acting's not taken off as fast and furious as you'd hoped. So it's like, well, what else? Where am I going? I always tell my daughter, go where it's warm, whether that's friendships or interests or hobbies. Where do you go that makes you feel really good? And for that, it was going back to comics and cartoons and things like that. So I started writing, and it all kind of merged together in one thing. My brother worked for Viacom, right? This is back in the 90s, my younger brother. And he called me one day and said, I heard they're looking for a new VO for Nickelodeon, like the new voice of Nickelodeon. So I was lucky enough to have an agent at that point, and I called my agent and said, can you get me someone in the door there? And as a result, I became the guy who was like, coming up next, SpongeBob, followed by
I love it. Look at this.
And then from there in the booth, I was making them laugh and doing everything. And they were like, you're really funny. Do you want a job as a writer? And I was like, and to be truthful, I kind of said no at first because I was doing all these other crazy things that I was enjoying. I was doing an independent feature film. I'll get into it more later, but I had just written and directed Spider-Man at Radio City Music Hall. I was doing all sorts of stuff. So I said no to them. And then a year later, I did all these projects that I was so heartfelt, and I was broke, Al. Broke as broke can be. And I thought, what am I going to do? And they came around again, and Nickelodeon said, are you sure you don't want to be a writer? And I was like, yes, I do want to be a writer. And that kind of took off. And then I moved to California, and I got hooked up with the Robot Chicken guys, and they became like fast family friends. Now we're together 20 years. We vacation together. Wow. Our kids hang out together. So, amazing. It was just going, like I said, go where it's warm, go where my interests were. And they led me. They led me to writing. They led me to animation. They led me to voiceovers, all that stuff, and comic books. And it all fuels each other. I know I keep talking, but what I find so interesting is my acting career took off more after I decided to become a writer.
Oh, that's the way it is.
It is always the way it is, right? It's like once you take your eye off the ball and you take the pressure off, then everything starts happening.
Yeah, it really does. Let me tell you, anytime I've moved and I was trying to break in areas I was at, the moment I moved, I was hey, we got this opportunity. I'm like, all right, always. The moment they move, I'm gonna kill these guys. I know.
I always say, if you want to book a job, what you have to do is book a flight out of town. Because it'll be inconvenient for you to have to cancel that flight. And that's why the universe is like, oh, you think you're going out of town? Well, here's a job for you. And you're like, all right.
Yeah. It's worked though. So listen, you've written for the Flash, Rebel, Spider-Man, two heroes that are known for speed and agility. Yeah. Do you find yourself writing faster when working on those titles, or do you take your time and let them run ahead?
You know what? I let them take their time. They're running so fast in the books that I thought, in between the pages, let's take a rest and see where we're going. You know what I mean? They came to me at one point, DC that is, and said to me, and I love how they phrased it. They're like, listen, anything that's ever been worth doing with the Flash has been done. Do you want to jump on it? And I was like, well, first of all, what a way to set that up. And I said, let me think about it, because I never want to do something just to do it. I want to have something to say. Why am I doing this?
Value to it too.
Yeah. So I thought about it. And when I came up with something that I thought really was like, oh, this is unique. And it was something that was going to add to the lore and the origin story of the Flash. And I was like, well, now that I have in me what I would be interested as a reader, let's do this. And that's when I took my time. And then when I get the juices flowing, then it's a quick sprint.
Let me ask you, when you broke into comics and got those opportunities, how comfortable were you writing comics? Now, was it a different learning curve for you? Something you had to kind of learn, and especially in collaboration now with an artist and all? How was that building those bridges?
Absolutely. I was working at Robot Chicken at the time, so I was doing sketches and writing Batman sketches and Flash sketches and all sorts of things. And then yeah, you kidding me? Screwing up everybody's childhood. I always wanted to get into comics, and so I was friends with Jeff Johns. I'm friends with Zeb Wells. All these guys that we were all coming up together. Jeff was obviously established at that point. And I was like, well, look, I need a tutorial. I'm really, what can I do? And so he kind of took me under his wing and explained to me what needed to happen and things. And then I wrote a couple of spec scripts. It was a Booster Gold spec script of all things.
Oh, Booster.
And then, what's funny is they always say it's when opportunity, you have to be ready for it. And that helped me be ready for it because an editor at DC had seen one of my Batman sketches on Robot Chicken. And at Comic-Con, he was like, "Oh my God, I loved your Batman sketch." I said, "Well, I love Batman." And he was like, "Well, you should write something for us." I was like, you can't joke about that. You can't just throw that out there.
Yeah, handshake, you grabbing that all right deal.
Exactly right. So that's when I was like, wait. If you're serious, I am too.
Hold on. I love it.
So that was it.
I love that energy. Now, all right. So you mentioned Robot Chicken. Let me ask you, obviously this is Emmy-winning absurdity at its finest, right?
Yeah.
What was the weirdest thing that you feel you ever wrote for the show that made it to the air, and maybe what's one sketch that was even too crazy for them, if you could share?
Well, there's a lot now. When you look back, and especially in the climate we're in now, it's like, geez, we got away with a lot that maybe we shouldn't have gotten away with.
It would have been canceled season 1. So.
I was just gonna say we wouldn't have even gotten out of the gate there. You know what I mean? There's a couple of sketches that I love doing. I turned Star Trek II into an Italian space opera sketch on Robot Chicken, and that came out really great. What's funny is it tie into everything else that we're talking about. We have to hit so many. You have to hand in so many sketches per day at Robot Chicken. It's an insane quota, and so you're thinking like, oh my God, I got nothing. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, and this is the first sketch I ever got in. I thought, wait, I'll do a sketch of Carmen Sandiego, the show that I used to be on. So I did a sketch of that, and then we all vote on them, and no one has their names attached to sketches, so no one who knows who writes what. And Seth Green, who's one of the co-creators, was laughing at the sketch, and he's like, "How do you remember this show?" I said, "Remember it? I hosted it." And he was like, "What?" So as a result, I now have an action figure of me as Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego's squadron leader, Kevin Shinick. And so that was kind of a bizarre sketch, yeah. And so, there was one, the one I probably get canceled for today is, those, what they call them, the dancing, the wind dancers that you see outside of car washes and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I had one that was at the grand opening of the new epilepsy center. And so it was just kind of, so that actually aired, and I apologize already because I'm sure I'll be canceled in hindsight.
I'm happy. I'm going to hell with you.
It's gonna be very crowded in hell. Very crowded.
Yeah, I love it. Now let's get into this thing we're doing right here, right? Because you're launching Host Mortem, right, on Kickstarter. Now, give us the elevator pitch, but you're in a haunted house, and the elevator keeps stopping at floors with increasingly terrified ghosts.
Oh my God. All right. Much like real life. The elevator pitch is, it's the story of two fake detective game show hosts from the 1990s who have to solve a series of real murders in the 1940s. And it's basically, I'm writing from what I know. I was the host of Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego in the 1990s. I played a time-traveling detective, or played myself as a time-traveling detective. And before me was a popular show called Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, starring Greg Lee, who played himself as a classic 1940s gumshoe detective. And I thought, wait a second. I've always loved murder mysteries. I love the idea of an elevator opening up in a haunted mansion and figuring out how I'm gonna get out of this. So I've always wanted to write one. And when I sat down to figure out, like, all right, what's going to make my detective different, or how am I going to stand out in the world of, Sam Spades and Kinsey Malone, all that stuff. And then I realized, wait a second, I was a detective on my show. And so I thought, let's lean into that. And it became very meta. And when I landed on the title Host Mortem, I thought it encapsulated everything I was trying to say. It was tongue in cheek. It's time travel, it's game shows, it's murder mystery, it's film noir, it's comedy, it's comics, it's all those things. So if anything I'm saying interests you in the slightest bit, I would say go to hostmortem.com and follow us. It's absolutely right free. There it is.
Right. It's right there below, folks. It's also in the show notes. And again, I was going to say that the title Host Mortem already sounds like a pun-filled roller coaster of dark humor. You know what I mean?
Exactly what it is. And, because the idea is like, the tagline is, are hosts really smart or do they just have the answers? And I have so much random knowledge in my head, all these random facts from the show, and Greg does as well. My show is predominantly history. His show is predominantly geography. And I thought, other than, party tricks or starting conversations, could these random facts be put to better use? Could they help solve a murder, perhaps? And so when the time portal opens up in Comic-Con, very meta, Greg and I, playing ourselves, head back to 1947 and solve a mystery that surrounds the classic film noir, The Big Sleep, with Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. So it's this wild ride that you're going to learn things about. You're going to find out some fun trivia. Will it help solve a murder? Well, spoiler alert, we're not really good at our jobs. So I can't say you'll be the best detective, but you will have a good time.
Yeah, and folks, you could see them add to the stage real quick. That's also that's the Kickstarter pre-launch. So when you click that, if you're there, that's the right. Just click notify me on launch. You already got 48 followers. This is your first creative project from what I see here as well.
It is. It is. Again,
so why launch it? What enticed you to use Kickstarter for the launch of this baby?
Well, I love comic books, Al. I read them all the time, and what I've learned as time goes on is that as much as I visit my comic book shop on Wednesdays, I find myself checking out Kickstarter on Mondays, because that's where the newest comics or the possibility of comics are coming out that I'm really excited by. That's where the independent voices are. That's where you can find some really unique things. And so being a fan of Kickstarter and a member, I say a member because I back things all the time, I thought, I really love this community that's supporting one another. And I thought, along with the book of like, what can I bring that only Kevin Shinick can do? I thought, if Kickstarter and crowdfunding, there are tiers, if you back certain levels, what can I offer this community that I love so much in addition to this fantastic book? And so the rewards include the typical stuff like, art from the book. You can be written into the book. You can be murdered off in the story. You get all this stuff. But then I kept saying, like, what do I have to offer? I do voiceovers for Robot Chicken, for Matt. I'm the voice of Bruce Banner across Marvel's animated universe for a while. I thought, look, I'll offer my services to your project. If you're someone out there who's doing an animator, or not even an animated project, but my voiceover can help you, then back at that tier, and we'll give you that. There's opportunities to meet Greg and I. We can send you a video. We can do a Zoom. You can have dinner with us. I have to stop for a second because it's all tied in. I was going to say Damian Torres and I. Damian's my main artist on Host Mortem. He and I will critique or give you inspirational notes on your next comic book, stuff like that. So,
like this comic book right here. Look at that beautiful cover.
That is from Tony Foti. Now, I wrote a Star Wars novel back in 2019 called Star Wars Force Collector. And my cover was drawn by Tony Foti. And I loved it so much that as soon as I came up with the idea for Host Mortem, I called Tony and said, hey, I have this idea. Would you, draw a cover for me? And so he was the first one I called, and this is what came up. And it blows my mind. And if you look at it, there's so much going on. And it explains so much of what's happening in the tale. And then, again, Kickstarter is all about collaboration. So in order to collaborate with my readers and my backers, I also found these great collaborative artists. So I got Damian Torres, who is my main artist. I got
that one, that cover right there?
Yeah, right there in the middle. That's Damian's. Damian's doing the main book, but he also did a cover, and that looks like a classic movie poster to me.
I love this.
And so he contributed that. That'll be for sale too, for a backing a reward. I've got
this cover. I fucking love this, bro.
You love that one? Now let me ask you something. Do you know of a guy named Timothy Anderson? His name is the author of the artist for this cover is Timothy Anderson. Timothy did this great thing that really got me juiced. He took Blade Runner and he turned it into like a pulp cover, like it is here, with like the worn edges, as if it was like a novel or a paperback from like the 40s, And I loved it so much that I reached out to him and asked him if he would do one for Host Mortem, and this is what he came up with, and I just absolutely love it.
Kick ass! It looks like it's a TV show for real. Like, what's going
I know,
on?
right? Well, who knows? Look, there are so many things that this Host Mortem can go, but the first thing that has to happen is it has to be backed as a
Well,
graphic
once it's
novel.
back, then all right, well, let's get into that for a minute. So, if it was adapted into a TV series, what's your dream cast for the leading roles? And would you play, a
I was
glorious
just gonna say,
person? What's going on here? Are you gonna be the main?
since it's time travel, maybe I can still play a younger version of myself. But yeah, I don't even know. It's the idea of us. That's what I loved about this was knowing that I'm writing for myself. But the crazy thing about this is Greg and I, even though we're super close now, and our shows were, mine followed his directly. We didn't meet for like 20 years.
Yeah. So yeah,
And then
what's the story of that promance though? Of the
so
promance?
like we knew of each other obviously because we hosted the same type of show, and then we didn't meet for 20 years. We had a friend who had a film in a film festival that we both went to see, and we met and we hit it off and we exchanged numbers, and then that was it. Never spoke to each other. And so when I had this idea, I thought, what would be really great is if, because Greg and I both played fake detectives in the 90s, I said, I wonder if he would do that, if he would, let me have his likeness and let me take this journey with me. And so when I called him, he was like, I'm in. And what was great about it is I liken a lot of this to, like, if your listeners don't know the movie The In-Laws, which is a classic movie about two guys who shouldn't be paired up in trying to solve a murder. And it reminded me of that, and it reminded me of The Odd Couple, because as much as I love Greg now, we didn't really know each other for the longest time. So to be able to come together and have to do something important like solve a murder, it just kind of led to comedy about how do these two guys who are fish out of water in the 1940s even come together and figure out how to do what they do.
I want to ask you: do you ever find it hard to take like serious horror seriously after years of comedy writing? Like, do you ever watch a horror movie and think it needs a chicken nugget puppet or something?
Not really, because it's a different hat. You know what I mean? It's like we can make fun of anything. That's easy. I turned Mad Magazine into an animated sketch comedy show. That was my forte, taking movies. And when I was a kid, my first experience with The Omen was in Mad Magazine. So I thought it was a comedy. And I begged my mother to take me to see Omen 2. And we were at the drive-in. I was like 9. And the title came up.
Wow, bro.
Drive-in. I said, drive me home. It came up, it said, The Omen 2. And I was like, and I hid in the back seat for 2 hours. So yes,
oh my God, this guy. I love it.
Anything can be turned into a comedy, but I do appreciate if I'm going to a horror movie for horror, I want that. If I'm going for a comedy, it depends on what you want or what your appetite is.
Yeah, but you mostly, from Mad to Marvel, you've kind of always infused your work with humor. So how do you really balance the comedy with the action and drama without turning it into a total cartoon? Unless that's kind of the goal.
No, it's not. It's, life alone, just you and I chatting here have been having a good time. Life has a lot of comedy in it, even when there's tragedy. That's when some of the funniest comedy comes out, is during situations that you shouldn't be laughing at. And so this is not, what was important to me was I know I can make things funny. That's what my career has been, making things funny. But I thought readers are going to appreciate this if there's a legitimate murder mystery here to be solved. And so it's not like it's just a fun little thing and it's meta and I'm having, it's this simplistic thing. This is an involved murder mystery. I mean, like I said, I love Columbo. I love The Big Sleep. I love Double Indemnity, all these great film noir and classic murders. And so I want a reader to be challenged. And I thought, can they solve it before Greg and I do?
So what are we doing? Well, it's a graphic novel. How many pages we going for on this baby?
We're going between 180 and 200 pages on this graphic
novel.
My
God, that is some self-porn. Oh my God.
It is. And there's, like I said, we've got a slip cover. We don't have the art for it here, but it is so gorgeous.
It really 40s with the slip and all. Hey.
Yeah, absolutely. And to top it all off is Clover Press is going to be distributing it. If you know Clover Press,
Clover's independent,
right?
Amazing independent publisher doing their thing. For real. Listen, we've shared on Comic Crusaders all the stuff they do. Big shout out to them. Real Clover Press, check them out. They have amazing creators, and if they're helping homie here, you know they're boss level.
Exactly, right? And if I can have my book in between their shelves of The Spirit and of Dick Tracy, then I'm gonna be a happy camper.
Oof. Oof, I
You
love
know,
this. All right.
and I have,
All
like I
right.
said, before we go any further, let me say that the rest of the creative team, because they've added so much to this. They got Pippa
Yeah, it's all
Bolin,
about your colorists, your inkers. Like, how you even met these
all
people?
that.
Did you choose them?
I did very carefully, in fact. I mean,
How
I've
so?
met Well, I met with a lot of artists, and I go to a lot of cons, and I meet people. I just hand my card out, and I go to from
You're a
table to
nerd.
table.
You're a nerd. You're in the nerd culture. You're not just in it working. You live it.
No, I live it. I live it, and I'm not embarrassed by it. I'm just like, this is who I am. I'm looking for it. And then a friend had just suggested Damien to me, and I looked at his work, and I thought, wow, this is it. So I didn't go with like the first one who would do it. I went with the one that was right. And then an idea hit me while we were doing this is very noir-like. This is going to be, like I said, 180 plus graphic novel, and
Awesome.
but it's going to be made up of 4 separate issues, and each issue, very noir-like, will be narrated by a different character. So I wanted the art or the style or something about each book to represent the person who is narrating it. And so I'm narrating one, Greg's narrating one, our fast talking receptionist is narrating one, we got a mystery narrator, all this stuff. And so I thought, wait, if we're going to have different styles, I reached out to another friend who recommended Andrea Schiavone, who's an Italian artist that has a great, like, golden age comic look to him.
I've actually believe we in comics have shared their art that I have
That's
found
fantastic.
amazing artists. So yes, because that name sounds
Mhm.
ultimately like, yeah. Because if we share the art, because it's an amazing artist.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so he, everybody's bringing their A game, and I've got Taylor Esposito doing the lettering,
Oh,
Pippa
boss,
Bolin doing the
legend.
colorist. There's so much going on, so much going on. So that's why when I talk about this book, I'm excited. It's not just about my writing, although I'm equally excited by that. It's the collaborative effort that has come together to make this book so gorgeous that there's what I was saying earlier, where there's an artist named Jesse Larson who I found, who has a very, you love horror, a very Edward Gorey style to him. If you know
Ooh.
his look, look him up. And so he did a cover for Host Mortem, and that will be the slipcover. And it just, and I have to add, a celebrity comic book artist also doing a cover for me, and I can't
Oh
announce
my,
it just yet.
teasing! Look at that teasing. This man's like on
Teasing
a comic book stripper pole right now, teasing us.
it.
That's on
It's
us with the
true.
celebrity is. Oh my God, what a tease! What a tease!
It's
We're
so
gonna make
true.
it rain on this project. Like, what's
I
the
sure
plan?
hope so.
What's the day we're shooting for to go live on this baby?
We're waiting to get some numbers in. So that's why I say follow us, because again, Kickstarter, I love the team. It's a learning curve for me. So we're figuring out, the more followers you get, the better chance you have for an earlier launch date and for success. So it's definitely within the month. That's why I need you to sign up now so we can let you know about early bird specials and, anything new that's happening with Host Mortem, because it'll be in March sometime. We don't have an exact date yet, but it will definitely be in March.
I love this. Let me ask you something here. Once Host Mortem
Mhm.
smashes Kickstarter records, right?
Okay.
What's the most ridiculous way you'd celebrate? And can we make it a stretch goal?
Oh my God, yes. Well,
Yeah.
I want to do a launch party when the book is actually done, and some of the tiers include invites to that launch party. Because look, the fun of this is I know a lot of hosts, whether they're nostalgia hosts you grew up with or current hosts on
That
TV
would be
shows
fun.
and game shows. And so they all came out of the woodwork because I had this idea. And at first I had the idea of involving a lot of them, because the 90s were filled with guys in fedoras solving mysteries, whether it was Blue's Clues or Figure It Out or Cluedo or, all that stuff. And then I thought, you know what? I have enough story with just Greg and I. So I'm saving those other people for a later issue or the book 2 or whatever you want to call it. But yes, parties. Again, I'm so excited for people to check out the rewards, because we've really gotten really creative with what we can offer that only we can offer. You know what I mean?
Oh man, you hear this, folks? Get excited. Listen, you guys gotta sign up for the pre-launch. That link is right there. Just sit in front of your faces. It's also in the show notes
So
already.
true.
You just gotta just click away. For real. Check out hostmortem.com. It leads you straight to that pre-launch page that I've been showing you. I'll just show you again. Listen, once you click that, you need to be there. And once you're there, you hit that button right here, notify on
Right there.
launch, and
And there's
boom,
Greg and I.
boom. That's it. When big homie
Exactly.
make this baby live. That's it. You
Absolutely.
get that note. You get that note. Then you can start making it rain. Them
Totally.
taxes is coming. them taxes is coming. Them paying. I know you got money. Don't be fucking around. Don't be saying y'all broke.
I know. I know it's true. It's true. It'll be worth it. Like I said, it's not just you're not just giving, you're getting something in return. You know, I'm an Emmy award-winning writer. I will help you. I'll give notes on your next script. I'm a celebrated comic book writer. I will critique your comic. You know, like I said, I'll offer you voice.
You, man. What's your favorite piece on that wall? Cause I see a lot of cool shit on that wall.
Yeah. Well, this is the other thing. You know, when I started writing comics, I always wanted to buy a page from my artists. Now, that even is becoming a rarity because most artists, as you know, now work on tablets.
Yeah.
So now they will do commissions.
What is paper?
They will do commissions, but to get an actual page from a story is very rare. So my very first Batman comic was from the Batman 80-page giant, and Rafa Gares was my artist. And so I bought a page from him. And then I've got Aaron Cooter. My first Spider-Man was Spider-Man and Deadpool together. And so he drew that. Now, here's some other just fun things. This is a Jerry Robinson, the creator of the Joker and co-creator, all the Batman stuff. Yeah. So and the story I keep telling about that is he was at a Comic-Con. I waited online with everybody else. And then I got up there and, you know, he was like 80 something at that point. He said, do you want Batman, the Joker, or both? And when he said both, I was like, well, how can I turn down both? So he spent like forever doing it. And when he was done, he was like, I'm spent. I got to go back to my hotel room. And there was a long line of people behind me. Who were like, no.
You were the most hated man at that Comic-Con.
I really was. And then I turned Mad Magazine into an animated sketch comedy show. So as a gift to the cast and the crew, I had them all immortalized in that Mort Drucker style of the magazine. So I'm surrounded by the talents of many artists.
Excellent. So let me ask the folks, that may be interested, just obviously they could follow you too and keep up to date. But are you going to be anywhere, hanging out anywhere, signings anywhere, any comic coming up? What's going on? I
definitely will. I don't have anything at the moment because I've been busy with this. And another fun thing that I mentioned is for 2025, I shook the host tree and think of all the things that had dropped out of it. Host Mortem dropped out of it. And then the other day, or a couple of months ago now, I auditioned for and got a feature film. So I am playing Dick Clark in the new Michael Jackson movie. Legendary host Dick Clark, who hosted American Bandstand.
Oh, bro. Listen, those were my Saturdays. Come on,
right?
Man.
Exactly.
I'm an 80s kid, so
of course.
And bro. Oh, my yo.
I was like, wow! I shook the host tree, and this is what dropped out.
Wow!
It's an Antoine Fuqua movie. He did Training Day and all those great movies.
Wow!
Great.
Wow!
And Michael Jackson's real life nephew Jafar plays Michael, and he's phenomenal. And Miles Teller's in it. It's coming out in October of 2025.
I cannot wait. And I can't see as the Clark, man. This is gonna be fucking wild with them sharp suits and shit, bro.
I know. I'm excited. I'm really excited. I really, really am. But again, to your point, if you follow me at Kevin Shinick across all social media, I'm on X, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Blue Sky, all those things. I keep it up to date there of where I'm going and when I'm signing. And also, I started in connection with host Mortem, I started a Substack called Game Show Gumshoe, which is kevinshinnick.substack.com, where I chronicle the making of this graphic novel, but also just, I laughed at the fact that when I was younger and I was hosting the show, the questions were like, who was the 12th president? Now the questions in life are like, what the hell happened to my hosting career? And how do you, whatever. So it's life's questions that we're answering over on the Substack. So I do that once a week. It drops on Tuesdays, but those are all the at Kevin Shinick, the Game Show Gumshoe on Substack, and all sorts of ways to stay in touch with me.
And lastly, you do any podcasts or anything of your own?
I do. And I'm going to launch one outside of or connected to the Substack over at Game Show Gumshoe. So yeah, I've got a bunch of great interviews in the can already that I'm excited to share. So that's probably happening in the next month. So it's all going to come down to this. And it's my birthday month of March as well. So we're going to have so much going on. So much going on in March.
Just getting it done, homie. Just getting it done. Crazy. Big boss level. Folks, you heard it right there. Kevin Shinick acts all across the socials. Most important thing you got to do is follow that Kickstarter on that pre-launch. It's going to launch soon. So just go there now. Listen, are you going to have any early bird stuff? Tease them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we got early bird. That's why I said follow for free, because you learn about the early bird rewards. We got discount prices for things. We've got some rewards that are only available early bird, big opportunities to be a guardian of this book, all sorts of stuff. But the one thing I can guarantee is that you won't be disappointed. I've worked too hard. I cut my teeth on Marvel comics, on DC comics, on all these things. And now I'm doing my own. And I thought, I'm going to pull out all the stops, and this is going to be the ultimate. So that's why I'm excited.
You heard it here, folks. This is going to be the big boss book to get right there on Kickstarter. Let's break them records right there. Mortem.com. So to love, man. Yo, Kev, man. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Doing the shit. That's that New York energy. You see the vibe. We're having a good time, baby. And I hope and thank you for the Crusaders. Y'all stay quiet. Why y'all so shy? Comment. Jeez, let's see y'all there. You got to talk, please. We would love for you to show some love to Big Kev out here. But again, to the Crusaders, thank you anyway. Yo, Kev, once again, thank you for your time. Crusaders, you know what it is. Follow everything Comic Crusaders all over ComicCrusaders.com, all over the socials, just like except in YouTube, it's Comic Crusaders World, because I have an extended family there. So I got to show love to those people. You know what I mean?
Beautiful, yeah.
With that, hasta la próxima, mi gente. ¡Huepa! Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit ComicCrusaders.com and our extended podcast family over at UndercoverCapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.